Isaiah Factor Uncensored starts now. Welcome and thank you for joining us for the Factor Uncensored tonight from Studio A. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton is pushing for voters to prove their citizenship in order to register to vote. He's leading a multi-state coalition with 14 attorneys generals around the country, arguing the country's current system is not enough to verify eligible U.S. citizens are voting at the polls. He would like the U.S. Election Assistance Commission to support the effort being made by the American First Legal Foundation, a conservative organization. Let's get to our first guest tonight about that. And Dr. David Branham from the University of Houston downtown is here, and political analyst Dr. Dietrich von Biedenfeld. So guys, when we take a look at the effort by Ken Paxton, State Attorney General here in Texas, some are saying he's attempting to make it much more difficult to vote. Others are saying he only wants to secure the vote. Dr. Branham, your thoughts about this in working with other attorneys generals from around the country?
He is working with other attorney generals, but you can see they're all pretty much from conservative states. So this is a conservative thing that he's doing. And the thought is that he's going to protect the American vote by making sure that people who are not here legally are not able to vote. But I think this is more than anything, this is a campaign thing. He's actually running for Senate, and this is part of him running for Senate. I don't think the impact...
And is that why he's joining this effort late? Because it's already been ongoing.
Yeah, I mean, I think he has 13 other states in front of him. And so, yeah, that's why he's joining late. He wants to get in on the action and show that he's this conservative protector of the vote. And the reality is that it's very few votes that are actually cast illegally. The evidence is very low. They were even in his letter, he said, in Arkansas is an example where in Arkansas we've arrested 3 people who voted illegally. 3 people? That's what he's worried about? I mean, we're not turning elections back and forth for 3 people. And in the process, he's costing he's costing the state a lot of money by making sure that we have to jump through all these hoops to make sure that all these voters are actually legal. And he's costing people some time because they have to go get these credentials to make sure that they can vote. And so, the arguments are that this is hurting minority communities, making it more difficult for them to vote, and it probably is. And I don't think the actual results of this intervention are going to be visible at all. I don't think you're going to see a lot of people being taken off the voting rolls because they're illegal. The one thing that people who are here that are undocumented understand is that they need to stay as far away from the government as they can. They are afraid. They're afraid to even follow their children into the public schools. They know better than to risk their freedom by signing a little card and casting one vote in an election with millions and millions of people. It's crazy to think that there's a lot of people doing that. So I'll just stand here and say no. I don't think it's worth it. I don't think we should do it. I think we can go in close elections and start looking to see if we're actually having these illegal voters. But the evidence is very, very slim that those illegal voters are actually casting votes, and they're certainly not changing elections.
All right, Dr. von Biedenfeld, your thoughts about this process and what we're seeing from Ken Paxton?
Well, I mean, this 14-state coalition, as Dr. Branham mentioned, is going to spend millions of dollars on legal fees. It's going to distract deputy attorney generals and assistant attorney generals from other work of prosecuting various welfare fraud and other what I think might be considered more conservative principles of malfeasance in the state. And additionally, you're more likely to get struck by lightning than find a case of illegal voting. We have had more instances of individuals being improperly blocked or impeded from voting or improperly removed, improperly accused of fraud when there was an accident or actually a problem on the part of government in their counting or administration of the vote, then there have actually been fraud cases. And so when you see 30,000 people in Kansas, multiple thousands of people in Milwaukee blocked or deprived of their right to vote, and you also have conservative principles that say, let's have less government interference. Why is government recognizing my marriage? Why is government telling me who I can or can't vote for and what forms of ID, it creates possibly an additional impediment for individuals, older people who might not have renewed their documentation timely, people who are legally entitled to vote but may have a transitory status such as marriage where they've changed their name, which again is a pretty conservative idea. These ideas of voter identification could create more problems for legitimate voters than the 3, 5, 12 people out of billions of votes counted that are actually committing voter fraud.
All right. We want to thank you, gentlemen, for joining us here on The Factor Uncensored. And, of course, we will be back with more Factor in just a moment. And we have with us Angela Box, conservative, and State Representative Ron Reynolds. Guys, when you think about this idea that State Attorney General Ken Paxton is pushing, is it an attempt to strengthen our voting here in America or disenfranchise by making it tougher for people to register and vote on a federal level? Your thoughts, Angela?
Well, I'm very happy about this, obviously. I think the Democrats have, you know, they continue to, as the kids say, show that ass a little bit because they fight against this. They fight against photo ID to vote. They basically say that black and brown people are too stupid or helpless to have a photo ID to vote. And so I imagine the same cacophony of people who claim this is somehow a voting rights, violation are going to keep screaming about it, but it's not. It's very common sense. And the majority of the American people believe in this. This is an 80-20 issue.
For those who say, though, it's becoming increasingly difficult, even for the average American, to prove that they're an American in order to vote, what do you say to those people?
Well, in Texas, certainly you have to be a citizen in order to get a driver's license to vote. That is something you have to prove. You got your birth certificate, people can have a passport, people can have a social security number. I think there's going to be lots of ways to be able to prove that you're a citizen. In theory, you're not supposed to be able to get social security numbers if you're an illegal alien, although we found out with the Doge audits that actually was happening. But I think in general, anything that we can do to strengthen voting laws is going to make for cleaner and fair elections where people will not think, like a lot of us do in 2020, that this whole thing was rigged. And let's make voting great again.
All right. Representative Reynolds, your thoughts and her comment that the previous election may have been rigged.
Well, obviously that has been proven by court after court after court as categorically false. This was a false propaganda from President Trump. Rudy Giuliani lost his bar license by arguing these frivolous cases in court. This is Attorney General Paxton placating to the right MAGA base because he's running for U.S. Senate. He's playing extreme politics. This is simply a measure to disenfranchise more American citizens. There are so many people that would be disenfranchised, particularly black and brown people, that don't have a readily available birth certificate or a readily available passport. So this is another form of voter suppression, and the Brennan Center did a study on it, a nonpartisan study that found that it would adversely impact people of color. That is exactly what the MAGA extremists want to do. They want to make it more difficult to vote. That's why in Texas we don't have online voter registration. We have one of the most extreme voter ID laws in the state, in the country. And elections are becoming more and more difficult to vote. While it's easier to get a gun, harder to vote.
Well,
doesn't make sense.
I'll say this, if we can get that 2020 census redone where non-citizens are not counted in the census, Democrats are going to lose everything. Democrats are set right now, if the census gets redone, to lose approximately 20 seats in the House of Representatives. This is why they're riding and dying for illegals, by the way, and why they are keeping the government shut down.
When we talk about illegals voting, though, what kind of proof is there of illegals voting in this country?
So like I said, the Doge audit found that 2.2 million people.
But a lot of the Doge audits has been disproven.
That's right.
Not this one, that 2.2 million people, illegal aliens, were getting social security numbers. And the idea is, of course, that if you have that, you can go get, you can get your driver's license, you can vote. Now, as an illegal alien, you're not allowed to do these things. And there's story after story after story that shows that illegals do vote. Is it in the millions and millions? Probably not. But I contend that the reason the Democrats want the illegal aliens to stay is a couple of reasons. They need the congressional apportionment, and they know that eventually they're going to have anchor babies that will eventually become Democrat voters.
categorically false. There's been no evidence of illegal aliens, undocumented citizens voting in elections, period, in a story.
Zero.
This is fake news. This is an attempt to placate the far right with another conspiracy theory. And what they're going to do is disenfranchise actually American citizens.
For those who say, though, Representative Reynolds, why not be sure? Why not be absolutely sure that this person is an American citizen? We are taking just one extra step. Why not?
Well, Isaiah, because if we're going to ensure that every person has a birth certificate that they don't have to pay for, every person has access to a passport. How many people that are poor have a passport? How many people that are poor?
Ain't going no damn way.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
So that is a problem. You're going to disproportionately impact the poor and minorities, communities of color. And that is, if it was a level playing field, sure, why not? But it's not. So until we take those other measures and put those guardrails in place to ensure that every citizen has those documents, then we shouldn't do it.
And we have really quick 30 seconds. The affordability angle.
So,
obviously, you know, everyone's not wealthy out there.
No.
Some people can barely afford to pay their rent or their lights on.
Absolutely.
And do you understand the part where
Yes, I do.
Okay.
And I think that if this does come to pass, I think that the Trump administration and certainly the state of Texas are going to put ways that people can get their birth certificates for free. I don't think it's going to be an extra burden on people. I think there's going to be a way to make sure those people have the documents they need in order to exercise their right to vote.
And 20 seconds to wrap us up.
Nobody, including me, want to disenfranchise anybody. This is about knowing if people who are illegally here are actually accessing our voting, our elections. And again, Democrats don't want any part of this. That should tell you everything you need to know.
All right. We want to thank you guys for joining us here on The Factor Uncensored.